They say certain moments etch themselves into our minds, silent as whispers, yet ever present. It's been 2 years since that afternoon, 2 years since everything changed. What was supposed to be a simple beach trip with my son, Leo, turned into something far more complex. My husband, Felix, couldn't join us. He often prioritized work over family, leaving a void I'd grown accustomed to. Still, something about that day felt off. It felt different then, and it still does now. We set our things down under the blazing sun. It was almost too hot. I lay back, finally free from life's constant clamor, and asked Leo to help apply sunscreen to my back. I didn't think twice. He's my son, my child. Why would I hesitate? At first it was nothing, just his hands assisting me. But later I noticed it, felt it. The way his touch lingered longer, drifted lower, and I didn't stop him. Why didn't I? That question haunts me now. You may think you know your family. You may think you understand your role within it. But a single moment can unravel everything. For me, that unraveling began on that beach. A moment that divided my life into before and after. Felix and I had been married for over 15 years. To the outside world, we were the perfect couple. A beautiful home, 2 children, a comfortable life. But cracks remain hidden until you're living inside them. The emptiness goes unnoticed unless you're the one consumed by it. For years, Felix buried himself in work. Always busy, I never stopped him. I told myself his long hours were for us, for our children's future, for our stability. But eventually, that excuse stopped making sense. What's the point of a home when the people inside barely connect? He stopped seeing me, truly seeing me. Even when he was home, it was as if I'd vanished. He no longer asked about my thoughts, my desires, my pain. Our conversations turned into checklists. Bills, groceries, kids' schedules. He loved Leo and our daughter, Emma, but even with them, he was distant. There, yet not there. I'd sit across from him at breakfast, wondering if he felt my stare, if he even noticed me. That morning, I stood in the kitchen, waiting. He rushed past, briefcase in hand, kissed Emma's head, and gave me a fleeting glance. "Sorry, Nora, can't today, work emergency," he said. I didn't argue. I never did. I nodded, my throat tight, pretending it was fine. Leo was 16 then, tall and slim, with the same warm brown eyes as his father, though his expression was gentler. When I told him it'd just be us, he didn't complain. He barely reacted. Just shrugged, grabbed the bags, and walked to the car. On the drive, I glanced at him from the corner of my eye. He stared out the window, earbuds in, lost in his own world. Teenagers do that. Still, I smiled to myself. He was growing up so fast. Sometimes I worried I'd blink and he'd be gone, off to college, out of reach. The drive felt endless. As I stared at the road, my mind wandered, as it often did, to Felix. I thought of the things we used to do together. Late-night movies on the couch, impromptu road trips, spontaneous laughter over coffee. I remembered how he once looked at me, like I was his entire world. I hadn't felt that in years. I'd grown numb, not from anger but from being invisible. When we arrived, Leo helped unload the bags. We found a quiet spot on the sand, away from the crowd. I arranged the towels while Leo set up the umbrella. I'm not sure what prompted me to speak. Maybe it was because he was the only one there, or maybe I just needed to be heard. "Nice to be outside, isn't it?" I asked. He nodded, brushing his hair back with one hand, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, Mom, it's nice." I lay back on the towel, letting the sunlight warm my skin. I stayed there, still and quiet, allowing myself a moment of peace, trying, just for a moment, to forget the weight of the past few years. But then I remembered the sunscreen. Turning to Leo, I asked, "Can you help me with this?" I held out the bottle. "Just my back. I can't reach it alone." He hesitated, his eyes meeting mine briefly before taking the bottle. I turned onto my stomach, pressing my face into the towel, waiting. His touch was gentle at first, cautious, as if afraid he might hurt me. I smiled at the sensation. It reminded me of when he was little, reaching for my hand to cross the street. His fingers were so small then. "You can press a little harder," I said softly. He adjusted, his hands growing firmer as they smoothed the sunscreen across my shoulders. I closed my eyes, focusing on the motion, the warmth, the comfort of his hands. For a moment, I let myself enjoy it. It had been so long, too long, since I'd felt another person's touch. The realization hit me harder than I expected. Then his hands drifted lower, slowly, carefully, along the curve of my back. My breath caught. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. I told myself it was fine. He was just helping. I tried to believe that, but I wasn't naive. His fingers paused at the edge of the towel. I felt his hesitation. I felt mine. Instead of stopping him, I whispered, "It's okay. Keep going." The words hung between us, heavy and irreversible. The moment they left my lips, I knew they couldn't be undone. Leo didn't speak. He didn't move right away, either. I squeezed my eyes shut, feeling his touch drift further than it should have. My heart pounded so loudly I feared he could hear it. I wanted to sit up, to stop, to say enough. But I didn't. I couldn't. I let it happen. Even now, I can't fully explain why. Was it loneliness? Was I desperate for acknowledgement? Or did I just stop caring about consequences? That day on the beach, something broke inside me, and it never healed. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. I know this isn't easy to hear. But if this story resonates with you, or if you think someone else might relate, please consider sharing it. Your support helps me keep sharing stories like this and reminds me I'm not entirely alone. But back to what happened next. After that beach trip, everything changed. I couldn't forget how it felt. I couldn't unsee the look in Leo's eyes afterward. His gaze held something new, something that wasn't there before. And though I struggled to name it, to define what shifted between us, I couldn't pretend it wasn't there. Every time we looked at each other after that, something flickered. Unspoken, yet undeniable. I tried to suppress it when we got home that evening, doing everything to maintain some normalcy. I cooked dinner. I asked Leo about school. I folded laundry late into the night, my hands trembling, replaying what happened. How he lingered, the tension I felt in my own body. I hated myself for it, and resented him for making me feel this way about my own son. Felix came home late, as usual, his tie loose, his face tired. He kissed my cheek out of habit, a hollow gesture. I tried to talk, hoping for connection, but he just nodded, already heading to the living room. It was the same pattern. His presence felt like an afterthought, leaving me invisible again. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Felix slept beside me. The house was quiet, but my mind was chaos. I kept thinking about Leo, his hands, his gaze. I knew it was wrong. I knew I should stop whatever this was before it grew. But a darker, lonelier part of me wanted to hold on to it. Wanted the attention, the touch, the feeling of being seen. Days passed and Leo stayed quiet. But his silence spoke louder than words. He watched me carefully, stayed closer. I'd catch him looking while I cooked, cleaned, or sat alone on the couch at night. And I let it happen. I didn't stop him. I didn't stop myself. The next weekend came, the heat oppressive, making the house feel suffocating. Felix had left for a work trip, leaving Leo and me alone again. I asked if he wanted to go back to the beach, just the two of us. I'm not sure why I suggested it. Maybe I thought being outside would clear my head. Maybe I wanted to test myself to see if I could stop it. The drive was quiet. This time, Leo didn't wear his earbuds. He sat, staring out the window, his knee bouncing restlessly. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the silence. But every time I tried, the words stuck in my throat. When we reached the beach, it was nearly empty. I remember the vivid blue of the ocean, the breeze on my face. We set up the towels like before, and Leo helped arrange everything. I didn't ask him to apply sunscreen. Instead, I lay still, eyes closed, searching for calm. But even with my eyes shut, I felt his gaze watching me. The real turning point came later that afternoon. We decided to rinse off at the beach showers before leaving. The plan was to quickly wash off the sand. But something inexplicable happened when we reached the showers. Leo stepped under the water first, letting it run down his back. I watched him for a moment from the side before joining him. An urge I couldn't control made me slip off my cover-up and stand beside him, the cool water soothing my skin. Leo looked at me, surprised. I'm not sure if it was just shock, uncertainty, or something else. But he stayed quiet. I glanced at him and said, "You should take off your shorts, too. It's better to rinse properly." I don't know why I said it. Maybe I wanted to feel in control, to stop the moment, or maybe I was testing him and myself. He hesitated, then complied, slipping off his shorts. And there we were, alone under the water, the spray drowning out everything but our emotions. I turned away and quietly asked for help with my back. He complied, his hands gentle as before, but the tension between us was palpable. When he touched my waist, I stiffened. The air grew heavy, the sound of the water drowning out everything else. I could have walked away. I could have stopped it. But instead, I leaned closer, took his hands, and guided them to my chest. He didn't pull away. What happened next defies explanation. It was a fleeting moment, a blur born of need, loneliness, and an unnamed emotion. It was not gentle or slow. It was urgent, intense, wrong in every way, but I couldn't stop it. I didn't want to. When it was over, we stood still, the water washing over us, erasing the evidence but not the truth. He held me like no one had in years, and I held him back. Afterward, we stayed silent as we dried off, packed up, and returned to the car. In silence, I glanced at Leo from the corner of my eye. His face was flushed, his movements stiff. I knew I'd broken something irreparable. We'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, yet for the first time in years, I felt alive. The drive home was quiet. The car felt small, heavy, as if the air itself pressed down on us. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to focus on the road, but my thoughts were chaos. I could still feel Leo, his hands, his presence, the weight of what we'd done. I glanced at him in the passenger seat. He sat tense, staring out the window, his face flushed, jaw tight. Then, suddenly, he spoke. "Mom," he said, his voice low and hesitant. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't answer. I heard him mention what happened, and my heart skipped a beat. I thought about playing dumb, changing the subject, but there was no point pretending anymore. Not after what we'd done. I took a shaky breath and said, "I don't know." It was the truth, or as close as I could get. I didn't know what had happened or why. All I knew was that everything had changed. We didn't speak again until we reached the driveway. I turned off the car, but neither of us moved. Leo finally looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes that scared me. It wasn't confusion, guilt, or even shame. It was longing. "How long have you felt this way?" he asked, his words sending chills through me as I'd been asking myself the same question. I looked at him, and it felt like something shattered inside me. "Maybe longer than I want to admit," I said. We sat in silence, in the dark, wondering if we should go inside, erase it from our minds, and pretend to be normal. But Leo had other intentions. Before I could open the door, he leaned in and kissed me. It was gentle at first. He seemed cautious, as if afraid I'd pull away. But I didn't. I let him kiss me, kissed him back, and then lost control. I don't know if it was the loneliness from years of neglect or Leo's gaze, something I'd missed for so long. I gave in to the moment. Outside our house, Leo held me, his hands moving over my body like they belonged there. I felt alive, wanted, truly seen for the first time in years. Nothing else mattered. I can't say how long it lasted, but eventually we went inside. I barely remember walking to the door. Only the feeling of his hand in mine and the silence between us, pulsing like electricity. Once inside, everything intensified, as if we'd been holding back for too long and the dam finally broke. The days that followed were a haze. Leo stayed close, finding ways to brush against me or look at me when no one was watching. I told myself to stop, to pull back, to end whatever this was. But every time I saw him, I saw the same loneliness I felt. It was like we were mirrors, reflecting the same emptiness, the same ache. I couldn't say no. I didn't want to. At night, I'd lie in bed next to Felix, listening to his steady breathing, my thoughts drifting to Leo in the next room, remembering the feel of his hands and how he made me feel alive. Before I'd close my eyes, guilt would coil in my chest like a snake. I knew it was unsustainable. I knew it was wrong. I couldn't stop. The tension between us grew every day until it finally exploded. It happened late one night when Felix was at work and Emma was asleep. Leo and I were in the kitchen, washing dishes to keep myself busy. I felt him behind me. Turning, I saw him looking at me the way he had on the beach. "Leo," I said softly, trying to warn him, but he stepped closer, so close I could feel his breath on my neck. "Mom," he whispered, "I can't stop thinking about it." I froze. My heart raced so hard I thought it might burst. I meant to tell him to stop, to go back to his room, to leave me alone. But I couldn't. Instead, I looked at him and said the one thing I shouldn't have. I can't stop either. That was the moment everything fell apart. Leo kissed me again, harder, in a moment of desperation. I kissed him back, ignoring the morality, ignoring Felix, ignoring the life we'd built. All I could see was Leo, my son, the only person who made me feel like I mattered again. Since that day on the beach, normalcy has been out of reach, and I don't know if it'll ever come back. Leo and I crossed a line that can't be erased, no matter how hard I try to convince myself otherwise. What started as a moment has become a heavy burden of shame I can't manage. The situation hasn't changed, but it doesn't stop me, and that's what scares me most. Every day I see my husband, Felix, and my daughter, Emma, and wonder how they don't see it. How they don't notice the cracks spreading through our family. Maybe they're too caught up in their own lives to see me falling apart. Or maybe I've just gotten better at hiding it. But I know this can't last. Secrets like this always come to light, and when they do, the consequences will outweigh anything I've done to keep them buried. I've told myself over and over that this is wrong, that Leo deserves better, that I deserve better. But every time he touches me or looks at me like I'm the only person in the world, I give in. He makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years, maybe ever. And that's the truth I have to live with. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can fix this. That's why I'm sharing my story, in the hope that someone out there might have answers. I'm stuck in a mess I never imagined, and maybe you can help me find a way out before it's too late. I'm asking for any advice you might have, especially if you've been through something like this or know someone who has. I'm desperate to hear from you. Let this also be a warning. Loneliness can lead you to places you never expected. Don't let yourself get as lost as I have. Don't let your world fall apart before you realize what's happening, because once you cross that line, there's no going back. Thank you for listening. Share your thoughts, and if this story helped you in any way, please like and subscribe. I need to know I'm not alone. Sometimes the greatest betrayals aren't the ones we commit against others, but the ones we commit against ourselves.